pass from Havili was magic. The shift on for Crotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy the show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Draft Rugby Show, where we discuss fantasy rugby, the game they play online in heaven. Harry, that's myself. How did I enjoy the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman final? I can tell you, not that much, because I was in Christchurch, where the grand final should have been, and was not. So that was a bit of a bummer. I'm here with Cargie and Nelson. Cargie, nothing of note for this week for you. Nelson, however, you've got 102 podcasts now. Congratulations, mate. That's pretty big. And not a great weekend for you on the fantasy footy front, but how are you going?
Oh, mate, yeah, the 102 podcasts, notching that up, that's pretty great. That's the first real milestone, I think, in all podcasts.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, I feel pretty average, really. Like up and down, I was quite frustrated through the game, and then looked at some draft stats and thought I was up by a good 90 points. And then when the stats came in, it didn't go all my way.
Another loss for the Dales. That's a bit of a bummer this year. And Cargie, mate, welcome. I did allude to the fact that there's nothing important to talk about for you, so we'll stick with that line. How are you, mate?
I'm pretty good, mate. Like you, I did not compete in a fantasy rugby final, although the big draft invitational that went on last week, I noticed that you were too scared to come on the podcast after losing that one last weekend, and that's fair enough.
I fled the country, mate, after that.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, understandable. But no, look, Nels was checking the stats, demanding a recount about every 5 minutes for the weekend for his fantasy final. But
I haven't got that yet.
Mailing points don't count or something. All the mail-in points had him read.
Yeah, that's it. But no, it was a close one. So well done, Nelson. A good season, but just couldn't get there over the final hurdle. And yes, no, my 100th cap today, boys. There it is, all three of us in the triple figures. Harry's still a little bitter from not being celebrated for his 100th cap. And look, I mean, I can't believe we've done 100 caps, really. Can you guys believe we've done 100 pods? It's huge.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Nothing big for you to talk about this week. Let's say the Royal Rumble, boys. I was on there the other night. The second Royal Rumble with a host of other Super Rugby, Australian rugby podcasters. Good fun to have a big chat with those boys. So I think we've now posted that up on our podcast platforms as well. So get up there and have a look.
And who was on there,
Harry?
I was going to say, yeah, shout out, mate.
No worries. Pick and drive. We
go to bed. That was the greatest introduction we've ever had on this podcast. And he's now he's going to move us swiftly along tonight. I think you'll notice this is a theme. But no, Harry, who was on the pod with you? Come on, mate.
We had Mitch from Pick and Drive. We had behind the scenes, Ando was working full time for the production value. That's why the video is so good quality. If you want to get onto the Pick and Drive Facebook or YouTube or Twitter and have a look at the video, I would highly recommend it. And then we also had Matt from the Gold Digger podcast, and we had Mitch from Rugby Fixation as well. So it was a host of rugby enthusiasts just talking everything rugby and wallabies and Super Rugby. It was good fun.
Exactly. And I was going to say, and you can of course find us on YouTube as well with our videos. And if you do, just for more context, Nelson does look like he's now in a brothel with his. That's not a Zoom background. Don't know why there's red curtains in his background. We told him to move rooms because it actually looked before like he was in downtown Baghdad. So I don't really know what's going on with your house where you live, Nels, but you've got like an assortment of pre-built Zoom backgrounds in your house. Like, I don't know how that works, but anyway, catch us on YouTube. It's good value.
And look,
lots of plays at this house, mate.
I normally ask people to like and subscribe, but the tactic I've gone at the moment is if you just give me your login details, I'll like and subscribe to our videos for you. So feel free to send those through as well.
That's it, exactly. And yeah, well, look, there was a game of rugby on the weekend. Nelson probably watched it more intently than either of us, Harry. Although, where did you watch it? I'm assuming some pub in New Zealand somewhere. That would have been a fun experience.
Yeah, mate, I went searching social media to try and find the best pub in New Zealand, or in Christchurch rather, to watch the footy. So there's a pretty cool pub in Christchurch that was just a big setup and was pretty packed out. Disappointingly, I think we probably suffered for the fact that there was no Crusaders in the final, but there were still a hell of a lot of Highlanders fans mainly in there watching the game to create a bit of ambiance, which was pretty cool.
And how much money did on that? How much money did both of you lose this season? I'm sure you put second mortgages on the Crusaders to take home Super Rugby Trans Tasman.
I didn't, mate. I put all my money on them to win Aotearoa, and it came off. I did not double down on that into Trans Tasman.
Yeah, I probably would have if I had time, but I didn't get a chance.
Before we move,
games, I was good.
I was going to say, before we move on as well, Harry, some of those pictures of New Zealand, of particularly Queenstown and around where you got around, how soon till you move over there, mate? It's got to be on the cards.
Mate, as you're alluding to, it's an ugly country, isn't it? It really is. Hideous. But no, it was awesome, man. I really loved my time and snuck in there between bubbles over there at the moment as well. So I managed to get in just for the 1 week. Basically, you're allowed to. So I don't know how I pulled that one. But
it's lovely over there. I think the one issue with New Zealand is there's too many Kiwis over there, and that just really lets it down.
No one saw that coming. All right, well, let's move on and talk about some rugby. Look, we've got up on the screen, if you're joining us on YouTube, we're going to talk about the OG League final first then, I suppose.
We'll give it the 1 minute summary that it deserves because the Cargie and I weren't in it and Nelson had a bad result. Congratulations to the back-to-back champ, Chrissy Nabung on our league. As you can see, it was a tight battle, 358 to 374. So he's come through and he's won 2 out of 2 comps he's played. So congratulations to him. Nelson with the graphics, very well done. I saw he was really keen to put the graphic together before the scores came out. Once the scores did come out and he knew he wasn't winning, it took him a fair few days to build the confidence and the guts to go up and put this together. So well done.
But I pulled through.
And we should note as well that, Nelson, I know how you feel, Chrissy beating me in the grand final last year. So, Harry, we need Harry to be in the grand final next year, and then he can get the 3-1.
One thing, I pulled a few Swifty moves on Nabung during that one, and I think he was reactive to me a lot of the time. And he said, "You know what? This is the first grand final that I feel like it's actually been hard. Last year he said it was in the bag. Rookie drafting."
How did I not see where that was going? But no, very good, Nels. I think that will certainly round out the 1 minute spiel on the OG League Grand Final. So yes, congrats to Chrissy and sucked into New Bum, the older brother who will for another year not retain his name. And with that, let's move on to the game itself, the Super Rugby Trans Tasman Grand Final, the inaugural between the Blues and the Highlanders at home in Auckland. I think, what did they get? They ended up getting 30,000 fans out to the game, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, 36, 38, something like that.
Yeah, very awesome. And the Blues able to bring it home, 23-15, all said and done. Probably still celebrating over there in Auckland. And look, we talked a lot about it last week. What was it? It was 18 years since they had last. No, sorry, more than 18 years. 2003.
18 years, yeah.
Last one. And yeah, look, I mean, we were just talking about it wasn't the most riveting of grand finals. I don't know if that's just because Harry and I weren't as invested as Nelson without taking part in fantasy. But no, I mean, as far as grand finals have gone in recent years, it wasn't the most riveting. But
I can tell you, Cargie, as someone actually very heavily invested in the game, it was just frustrating. Like, I just wanted to see a bit more open footy. I wanted to see some attacking style footy, not as many penalties. It wasn't a horrible game in the scheme of things, but it didn't feel like the climax we needed after 3 different Super Rugby seasons, competitions this year. But good on the Blues getting the result.
I think you probably saw the difference in gameplay because of how tight it was. The Crusaders get up in the normal grand finals in the last 5 years and the gap opens up a little bit. And all of a sudden there's the drive for both teams to score, to try and be adventurous and score tries. Where in this one, it was so tight all the way through that no one wanted to make a mistake. You could see the nerves were creeping in and they would just take the points on offer, especially through that second half. Credit to the Blues who still scored 2 tries, but there definitely was a different feeling to this kind of final, that it was so neck and neck that neither team wanted to make a mistake and they just wanted to try and take those opportunistic points, which maybe not as entertaining as fans, neutral fans particularly. I'm sure the Blues fans had a great time.
Yeah, so.
That's true. And exactly, look, it was pretty much exactly as we thought it was going to be in terms of it was the power of the Blues. You have to say the Blues on just looking at the team sheets, the Blues, this is a Blues game to lose for mine, but you knew the Highlanders were just going to stay with them the whole game. And of course, the Highlanders didn't score a try. They just kicked 5 from 5 penalty goals. And yeah, they were just able to, look, I think they ended up, also they made twice the tackles that the Blues did. and they were just able to, I guess, convert every of the few opportunities they got, even if it was just penalty goals. But whereas the Blues were just not able to make their chances count, I suppose.
Yeah, Blues definitely had a lot more ball in that game. They had a lot more territory. And they went, I think they came and went up and down in waves. They had times where they seemed quite dominant early on. It fell away from them, and then they sort of got a bit of ascendancy back at a point later in that game. But the Highlanders snuck through, got a little bit of a lead for a short period of time, and then lost that, and their dreams slipped by.
Yeah, did they get a lead up as well? I forgot that they did.
They
didn't
did.
They got 1 point ahead or something. Yeah. So look, I mean, I think this one, in summarising, was 13-6 at half time. It was pretty much mainly the Blues just dominating in the first half, all the possession and territory. But they just couldn't convert. And then, as Nell said, the Highlanders came out in the second half absolutely firing. But the Blues just managed to come home strong. So the crucial moment in this game for mine was, or the biggest moment was the yellow card to Ash Dixon, co-captain Ash Dixon. That look, for all money, that was a red card. I think they probably still talk, even though they won, they're probably still talking about it in Auckland. It was a shoulder to the face, and look, all three of us are all for games not being ruined and watching more rugby, but I mean, there's a clear mandate, player safety. And I just don't think it's not good enough for referees to be scared to make a call. And, it's interesting that you would understand perhaps a little more if it was a red card to the Blues and they were really scared of making that decision in Auckland. But it was the Highlanders. So I don't know. For mine, that wasn't good enough. That was a clear red card. We do have in Super Rugby Trans Tasman the 20 minutes off, and you can then replace that player. So it's not a be-all, end-all, despite it being still pretty significant. But anyway, I mean, it's still a yellow card. It didn't really, I guess, slow down the Blues. Like I said, it was still the Blues all the first half, and that card was, the card was to the Highlanders. It's still somehow the Highlanders managed to lift, is what I meant, and kind of prevent the Blues from capitalising too much on that. But I don't know. We could talk about it forever, but it was a red card for mine.
Nelson, let's go to you. The end score was 23-15. We talked about your narrow fantasy footy loss. I'm sure you're obsessed about that. Talk to us about your moment of the match and what you were kind of looking out for.
Look, I think one of the big things for me is I thought Satutu was going to be a pretty influential player. I had him and Akira Ioane. I just thought those two boys would get a lot of ball in hand. Satutu early on in the game was relatively quiet. There was a few moments that he started to build himself back into the game. And look, this is probably more of a heartbreaking moment for me, really.
He was the top scorer for the record in the game.
He was.
Yeah, so you're asking a lot to be complaining about picking the guy that was the top scorer.
Who got the most points on the weekend?
There's a clear moment that is my dream shattering moment. And that's when he basically got over the line, reached out and dropped the ball. And I mean, not only did he lose the points for getting that try, he also lost points for dropping the ball and turning it over. So that was my season, I think, right there. If he just held the ball, it could have been all different. But
Nelson, you're going to feel this again next year, because I can tell you that that's the exact same thing that happened to me losing last year. That was when, I don't know if you guys remember, Tavita Kurandrani, the choo-choo, was running across the line in the corner and just dropped the ball with no one on him, and that caused me to lose also against Chrissy last year. So,
mate, he's lucky. He's a lucky man.
Yeah,
Chrissy's paying someone on the side. That's what's clear.
Yeah, it's the fantasy gods.
So, all right. So we've said Hoskins was the fantasy man of the match, but Harry, I believe your moment of the match was also around Hoskins 2-2, but probably in a better light.
It was, mate. I thought he was massive all the way through this game, and it's been good to see his form build all the way through Super Rugby this season. I thought he was good over the ball, but my highlight for the game was when he made that pick and drive line break late in the second half, which ended up leading to the final try of the game. Sadly for Nelson, he didn't get there himself, whereas there was definitely a moment where I thought he might, but it was because of him that Blake Gibson dove over. I think it might have been two phases later. So that was the big turning point for me, and it went from the Highlanders 1 point behind and a real chance to out of touch. So huge moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely massive. If we look at the fantasy man of the match, as you said, it was him. He got 49 points, 11 carries, 2 line breaks, 4 tackle busts, an offload, and 7 tackles. So I think he did insert himself into that game, but for me, it was in patches. Early he seemed quiet, and he started to build back into that game, as did, I think, Akira Ioane. They started to get involved, but would just love to see a little bit more.
And Craig's maybe your one will round this game out. What did you find?
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, perfectly carrying on from you in terms of that try and the conversion, putting that game out of touch. They were 1 point ahead, and with the try and conversion, that put them 8 points ahead, which meant 2 scores with too little time. And that was off the back of, for mine, we have a new Iceman in town. Harry Plummer came on, 2 kicks, nailed them both from pretty much the sideline. Cool as you like. I think if you're kicking goals like that in a Super Rugby final, you're the new Iceman. He's got the title for Mike, so pretty incredible from him.
I think the Highlanders got 5 from 5 as well. I think there was only 1 miss to the Blues, so there's ice all around, mate. Ice all around.
It was for sure.
And then, of course, there was Mitch Hunt's last second drop goal. He forgot about this. He said, "Scrap the scoreboard. Who cares? I'm going to go for a drop goal." No, he wanted to get.
That was the right play, mate. You
30
get
seconds,
those
mate.
3 points.
You kick those points, you get another chance to score.
No, I know it was the right play, but it just it felt like even if he got it, they had 1 chance left to. I suppose what else can you do, right?
If he didn't get it, then they had 0 chances. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Right.
let's not say this is Matt Dunning-esque, all right? Like there was actual some good theory to the.
That was the right call. Right call.
Yep.
All right, and look, through this, we've talked about the game a little bit. The stats, we don't need to go through all of them, but the Blues they dominated all stats. That tells the story, really. Possession, territory, and time in half was all around the mid 60%, 67% territory and time in opponent's half. The big stats, so that they made more carries, more meters. Tackle bust 31-8, line breaks 12-0. That's really the stat of the game, I suppose. And the Highlanders, I said earlier, making double the tackles, 77 for the Blues, 143 for the Highlanders. Set piece was pretty tight, and penalties conceded was pretty even. So, it was really just the Highlanders did a really good job at holding out the Blues. We must say that. So
yeah, if we roll on over to the other performers on this match, Alex Hodgman, another guy on my team, got 48. Rico Ioane got 44.
Wait, did you win or did you lose, Nels? Sorry, I forgot.
Mitch Hunt, he was in my team too. He got 41. Kurt Eklund, Akira Ioane, both mine with Finlay Christie got 37 points. So I got 5 of those top 7. Wasn't enough.
What happened to the rest of your team?
Mate, how ridiculous. 5 of the top 7.
Vernon Areki happened to his teammate. 4 points. Gregory 1. Heem 14. Gilbert 1. That's what explains it.
Yep, my backs.
Boys, let's push on. Let's get to the main course.